Alrighty. Good day to all you glorious Rascallion Resonators, you beautiful legends. The name's FOXSOL, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to some more Wuthering Waves, and in today's Wuthering Waves video, we're going to be discussing Mortefi, the nerd with a gun. We're going to talk about the way I build him, which is, again, not a practical way of building a character, but gets the job done. So, if you're interested, take a seat, relax, and let's get on with the guide. Alrighty, so we're talking about Mortefi, a 4-star fusion-based sub-DPS character that is a great character to run in multiple types of teams. I'm going to be honest with you that Mortefi is probably the best fusion sub-DPS character that can help benefit characters such as GN, Jianshi, Calchero, anyone that's going to need their incandescence meter to be built up faster, as well as anyone who needs their heavy damage buff. So I'm going to say it. I really love this character. At first, I didn't quite like him until I understood what he actually did. And then when I understood what he did in the beginning, I was like, holy shit, this character, before Chang Li and everyone else came evolved, this character became legitimately one of my #1 sub DPSs that was an amazing part that, you know, I still utilize for my GN team, because Mortefi and GN to me is like peanut butter and jelly. You put them together and you put whatever healer or whatever other character you want on a team, doesn't matter. These two just work so well together because GN requires and heavy does pretty much everything based around heavy attack damage, and Mortefi comes in and he'll buff that by 38%, and those two just work very well together in my personal opinion. So let's go ahead and let's discuss the next part, which is going to be weapons. Then after weapons, we'll get into the Forte circuit. Then we're going to get to the resonance chain, and then we'll get into the echo set. All right, talking weapons. My main weapon of choice is the Cadenza. Now, here is where I have a little bit of a problem with Kuro Games. When it comes to weapons such as gunslingers, it does seem that we're a little bit few and far behind, okay? Because I will show you that I only have 3 gun weapons, okay? And it's not like any of the other characters where I get like a bunch of swords. I'll get a bunch of the variation things for people like Bai Chi and such. When it comes to gunslingers, it just seems like Kuro Games said, oh yeah, we have gunslingers, and then threw them in the bottom of the ocean. So hopefully in the future, you know, when 2.0 and everything else comes out, gunslingers will make a comeback and we'll get better weapons and stuff like that. They'll come in. But for right now, we're using the Cadenza. It's a weapon that's primarily based around attack and energy regen, and that is good enough for what I need Mortefi to do as a sub DPS. As well as with its rank, you're going to see right here that when we're using resonance skill, we're going to go ahead and restore 14 energy, and this will go ahead and trigger once every 20 seconds. And the idea behind this is that we want to make sure that our outro skill meter is getting filled as fast as possible, no matter what. The idea behind it is we want as much energy regen for the alt. We want as much ability to push that outro skill as fast as possible, because we want to be able to buff our GN. We want to be able to buff our other characters with a heavy attack damage buff and give them that alt at the same time, so that way they can just shine. So let's go ahead really quickly. Let's take a look at the Forte circuit. We'll explain a little bit more about it in that segment. All right, coming into the Forte, we're first and foremost always going to start with the outro skill. And this is what I was talking about, is that when the incoming resonator is going to be coming in, they're going to gain a 38% a heavy attack damage amplification for 14 seconds or until they're switched out. So for characters like GM that, you know, benefit because they're pretty much their entire kit is based around heavy attack damage, Mortefi showcases that he is the peanut butter to the jelly of GN in this case scenario. Moving on to that, to the main line of the Forte circuit, our resonant skill. We basically call it, you know, the Forte bar, Mortefi's annoyance. And when it reaches 100%, the resonant skill is then replaced with Fury. And when we cast this, it consumes all the annoyance and unleashes a high-speed flaming lightning that will deal fusion damage that will be considered resonant skill damage. So make mark of that you want to be able to make sure that you're having fusion damage as well as a substat of resonant skill damage included with your echoes as much as possible. With annoyance, it can hold up to 100%, 100 annoyance, and it can restore in different ways, from normal attacks, from the intro skill, from using the resonant skill itself, and within 5 seconds of casting, you know, passion variation, normal attack, it will hit targets and it will restore annoyance additionally, as it states right here. So pretty much button mash the hell out of everything, build up that meter, and keep using it. And it's going to help generate a lot of energy back into your alt and into your outro skill. Moving on up from that with harmonic control, after we cast our resonant skill, the damage of the resonant skill in the next part, Fury, is going to be increased by 25% for the next 8 seconds. Moving on from that, during the alt, Burning Rhapsody, each of the resonant liberation, Marketo, whatever you pronounce it, will increase the damage of the next resonator version of it by 1.5%, which can be triggered every 0.35 seconds, stacking up to 50 times. And this effect will be reset after Burning Rhapsody ends. And we'll get into more about that, because that is pretty much the alt that goes on top of the shoulder, that every time you're shooting and everything else, or every time you're hitting someone, depending if you're using a normal attack or heavy attack, will either dish out 1 or 2 basic attacks that's going to come out from this. Looking at resonant skill, this is where, you know, after you build up your annoyance meter, it will launch a flash of lightning of flames towards forward and dealing fusion damage. Normal attack is just normal attack, basic, heavy, mid-air attack, dodge, counter. Resonant Liberation will deal fusion damage, applying a Burning Rhapsody to all characters on the team. This is what we're talking about, is that when you activate this, the character's basic attack on hit, Mortefi will launch a coordinated attack, firing one of the Marchettos, and then when activated, their heavy attack on hit, Mortefi will launch a coordinated attack, firing 2 of them. Mortefi can launch 1 coordinated attack every 0.35 seconds, and it deals fusion damage. Intro skill is just attacking a target and dealing fusion damage. And as you can see as well on the screen, I don't have Mortefi fully built. We didn't do the fusion damage bonus increase. That is to be next, but I'll say it like this. With WutheringWaves' economy that Kuro Games has applied to this, oh boy, the inflation is so fucking high that, you know what, I just didn't really bother to go ahead and add a pawn to that. So I'm sorry. We're going to go ahead and move on to the resonant chain next, and we're just going to go take a look at all 6 of his summons and go on from there. All right, so taking a look at the resonance chain, his first summon, which is solitary, during, you know, his alt Burning Rhapsody, Mortefi will launch a coordinated attack when the on-field character performs their resonant skills, firing 2 of the resonant liberations hits, dealing fusion damage. When we get to his next summon, after using Echo Scale, Mortefi will restore an additional 10 resonant energy, and this could be triggered once every 20 seconds. Going to his third summon, during Resonant Liberation, Burning Rhapsody, the crit damage of the Resonant Liberation is then increased by 30%. Going into his fourth summon, during Resonant Liberation, Burning Rhapsody, it's going to be extended by 7 seconds. And then we go to his fifth one, when using Resonant Skill, Passionate Variation, or Fury Fatigue. Here, it hits a target. Coordinated attack will be triggered to fire 4 Resonant Liberations and dealing fusion damage. The damage of the Resonant Liberation marker will be then fired in the way will be reduced by 50%. Now, for his final one, when we cast our Resonant Liberation, Violent Finale, its cast attack of all members will then be increased by 20% for the next 20 seconds. In all honesty, it wasn't hard to get him summoned 6 by just going for GN banner, by going for Chang Li banner. He pretty much showed up and I was able to get multiple dupes for him. And in all honesty, you don't need to have him summon 6 to make him any quite useful or anything. None of this really showcases like, wow, this is a really, really big deal. It really isn't. The only one I would say maybe summon 6, you know, increasing the attack of all team members by 20% for the next 20 seconds is pretty good, but it's not necessary for what we're trying to do with him. Because you got to remember, with these guides, in all honesty, I'm the lazy man. I do a lazy man's build. I just want to take unutilized, you know, units, and I want to make them work pretty much as fast as possible. So we'll get into now the Echo set, to where a lot of you are going to tell me it's most likely not optimized. And you know what? Let's talk about it. Alrighty, coming into our Echo sets, I will tell you like this. For us, with our Echo set, we are using the Moonlit Clouds. And there's multiple reasons for this. I think that for almost every single sub DPS, anyone you are going to consider a sub DPS character should be running, especially if they're unutilized. Like if they're a character you haven't really built up, they're still around, you know, level 50 to level 80. In all honesty, you should be looking at using the Moonlit Clouds for your sub DPSs, because it will provide better in the long run to support your main DPS that you do have built up. So in this build that we have right here, as you can see, we are running right now the Moonlit Clouds. We have a full 5 set. We're doing a 4-3-3-1-1. And in all honesty, I will say it like this. This Moonlit Clouds build was just thrown together, okay? Just to make basically Mortefi useful and run. Originally, we used the fusion set. It worked very well back then. It would still work very well. If you want to use fusion, use fusion. I personally am more partial to the Moonlit Cloud, especially when you take a look at the 5-piece set overall, you know, effect. The five piece effect for Moonlit Clouds, you know, upon using a natural skill, will increase the attack of the next resonator by 22.5% for 15 seconds. So think of it like this. With someone like GN, we're not only going to increase his heavy attack damage by 38%, but we're increasing his overall attack damage by a 22.5% increasement using Moonlit Clouds. And this is the reason why I think that it's better to utilize this set over using the fusion set, because with the Molten Rift set, doing a full 5-piece fusion set, we're just going to increase, you know, the fusion damage by 30% for the next 15 seconds after releasing a resonant skill. Does it work for Mortefi? Yes, it works for Mortefi. It works perfectly fine, but in my personal preference, Mortefi is a sub DPS and he's not a main DPS, and we're not too worried about the damage that he's dealing. We're worried about the benefits of what he can do to buff other characters on the team. So, with that being stated, as I said before, when it comes to the Moonlit Clouds, my Echo set is a 4-3-3-1-1, and this was a thrown together set that I said sooner or later I was going to come back to this and I was going to fix this. The idea of this was we did, you know, the fucking 3-headed chicken right here. We did as an attack. We did a fusion damage bonus for Spearback. We did energy regen with Glacial Dreadmane. We did HP and I think defense. Yeah, defense also for our ones, which these should be probably both attack. In my personal preference, this probably should be Bellborn. And it should be, you could put this as a crit damage, you could put this as a crit rate, you can leave it as an attack, whatever you want to do with it, that's perfectly fine. I would say that, again, with Moonlit, this should stay fusion. The next one, especially now that I've played around more with it, this additional 32% for the energy region that we're getting with this Echo, with this 3 Echo, is really not necessary. So we could swap this over to either an attack percentage or a fusion damage percentage that would benefit Mortefi a little bit more in his attack. And then both of these right here, especially now that we have him at level 80. Originally we had him like a level 70 when we did this. we don't need this HP no more. This can be swapped over to an attack percentage, and this could be swapped over also to an attack percentage instead of defense and HP. But if you do have, you know, a lower level Mortefi, you haven't built him up, let's say he's still like around level 60, 70, you may want to consider just making him somewhat of a tank type deal. So just putting HP on him so he can take a hit and pop off, you know, his resonance skill, pop off his outro, would probably be a good benefit in that case regards. But if you do have him somewhat built up, you got him past level 80, you know, past level 70, he's like level 80 almost to 90, then we don't need to worry about this, I don't think, and you can swap them both over to an attack percentage. So again, do whatever you want for the boss one, but I would suggest both 3 and 3 here should be fusion damage, and 1 and 1 should be both attack. And then, you know, we need to make sure that we're having resonance skill and res liberation damage, as well as 2 substats if possible on the echoes themselves. Alrighty, let's get on to the next section, do a little bit of examples, talk a little bit more about Mortefi, and get ready to end the video. Alrighty, so working with Mortefi, like I said, I run him with GN mainly as his main DPS. GN and Mortefi to me are 2 peas in a pod. They work very well together. Right now, we're going to go searching for a couple of different enemies, such as this run right here. And you can see that basically the idea is that we are just trying to build our meter. And look how fast that meter for outro skill is being built right now. Look how fast from just using moonlit clouds as well, look how fast our alt is coming in. And this is where, like right here, you can pop your alt, boom boom, you can swap over to like GN, and now GN, all his heavy attack now is been increased to where bam, we have a 38% increasement on our heavy attack.
What a nuisance.
And this is the main idea of what you want to do, is that you want to have a character that, in all honesty, you're trying to build that meter up as fast as possible. You're trying to make sure that your alt is coming out as fast as possible within a rotation if possible. So dodging, moving around, building that energy, getting your alt. This is basically the concept of what we're trying to do. And it's somewhat like in GN's case, like this right here going into alt, this right here, everything after this is all considered heavy attack damage. So right here, we would be using our 38% damage amplification on this alt. And every time we're hitting with our alt, that's a 30% additional heavy attack damage bonus, because it is being considered for GN with his alt in particular, heavy attack damage bonus. As well with, you know, Mortefi's alt, you know, I'm going to showcase this as well for someone like GLYTCH. This right here does help in terms of building up, you know, her incandescence. And what I mean by that is that we're trying our best to make sure that we are doing anything that is based on, you know, an element damage that will help build an incandescence. So pretty much every single thing that Mortefi does is a fusion based attack. And then when you pop something off like the alt and you switch over, I don't have GLYTCH on, but you switch over to GLYTCH, every time I'm hitting, we are also providing that additional fusion damage. So every 3 seconds, it's being counted to the incandescent meter for GLYTCH, and that helps build up faster. Mortefi was actually a character that I used a lot with GLYTCH before Zaishi came out, and then I started using Zaishi, and I think Zaishi does better. But if you don't have Zaishi, Mortefi and GLYTCH would work. That team does work very well together as well. But the idea here is just, yeah, straight up, we are trying to make sure that we are doing everything in our best ability to ensure that we are getting our outro skill meter going up as fast as possible to swap out characters, and we're trying to make sure that we are popping that alt so that way characters that benefit from that heavy attack damage is benefiting from it as fast as possible. Excuse me. Oh man, I don't know why I had a tongue twister there for a second, but my tongue twisted there for a second. But it's a good benefit. So I totally recommend that if you're not utilizing this nerd with some fucking guns here, that you may want to consider utilizing him. throw on a Moonlit Cloud set, pop him on with a character like Jian, pop him on with any character like Jianshi. Hell, you could pop him on pretty much with a whole bunch of different wide variety of different characters on the team. Heck, you can even look at using him as a main DPS if you wanted to, because he can do it. I've seen it done. I've done it before with a fusion set. This character right here is very well simple to use, not hard at all, and does a wide range of different benefits for multiple teams. And I think that he is a great asset to your team in general. So don't believe me? Give him a shot. I think, you know, this is absolutely the fire god, you know, before Chain Li showed up, and was one of the best sub DPSs that is still good. It's just that, you know, he's overshadowed by beautiful assets.
Nice view.
So, otherwise than that, guys, thank you for joining me for this guide. We'll be looking at doing some other guides here in the near future. Hope if this helped you out, consider giving the channel a like. Consider going ahead and leaving a comment down below. Tell me how your build for Mortefi is. I'm actually kind of interested. Are you using Mortefi, you know, as a sub DPS? Hey, are you one of those people that's using him as a main DPS? Let me know down below in the comment section below. You know, you have any suggestions on how to make him a better sub DPS than what I am? You know, I'm pretty sure anybody out there would be appreciative of that information. Like I said, I am not saying that this is the most optimal way of using Mortefi, but legitimately it has worked out very well for me from the beginning, and I am looking future-wise to probably upgrade him in a different set sooner or later and make him more useful for other teams that I have in mind. But like I said, with the economy of WutheringWaves, how everything is, I'm not sure if we'll be able to get to that anytime soon, because man, I think Kuro Games needs to adjust the inflation market right now. So alrighty, otherwise than that, guys, keep it real, keep it easy, keep it classy, and keep it jazzy, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Peace.